I strike quickly, being moved.
Yes, but thou art not quickly moved to strike.
A dog of the house of Montague moves me.
The quarrel is between our masters and us, their men.
'Tis all one. I will show myself a tyrant. When I have fought with the men, I will be cruel with the maids. I will cut off their heads.
The heads of maids?
Aye, the heads of the maids are their maiden heads. Take it in what sense thou wilt.
They must take it in sense that feel it.
Okay, the play begins with two members of the Capulet household, Samson and Gregory, on stage and talking a big game. Specifically Samson, who speaks about how he would be willing to strike a member of the Montague household. When Gregory challenges him, Samson says, I would strike their men, and I would strike their women, their maids as well, although I would strike them somewhat differently. This is Shakespeare using his first sexual innuendo type of pun.
Me they shall feel while I am able to stand, and 'tis known I'm a pretty piece of flesh.
Well, 'tis well thou art not fish, for if thou hadst been poor John.
Again, Samson acts with a lot of bravado, saying that the Montague women would be lucky to have him because he's both very attractive and, in his own words, well endowed. To which Gregory retorts, if you were a piece of flesh as sold in the market, you would be like a poor John, a type of fish not unlike an anchovy or a sardine, a very small fish.
Draw thy tool. Here comes two from the house of Montague.
My naked weapon is out. Quarrel, I will back thee.
How, turn thy back and run?
Hey, fear me not.
No, Mary, I fear thee.
Let us take the law of our sides. Let them begin.
I will frown as I pass by. Let them take it as they list.
As they dare. I will bite my thumb at them, which is disgrace to them if they bear it.
Remember how just a second ago Samson was bragging about how ready he would be to fight a Montague if given the chance? Well, here's his chance. Two Montague serving men just walked across the stage, and rather than go and fight them right away, what's his response? Gregory, you fight them, I'll back you. Gregory won't do that. So rather than just go and challenge them directly, he instead says, okay, I'll frown at them. No, wait, I'll bite my thumb at them. That's disgraceful. It would be like giving them the finger. And if they start the fight, so be it. Then I'll fight. He's waiting for them to make the first move. This is our first indication that these two are cowards. Gregory and Samson don't really want to fight. They're just talking a big game, putting on a show.
Do you bite your thumb at us, sir?
I do bite my thumb, sir.
Do you bite your thumb at us, sir?
Is the law on our side if I say aye?
No?
No, sir. I do not bite my thumb at you, sir. But I do bite my thumb, sir.
Do you quarrel, sir?
Quarrel, sir? No, sir.
If you do, I am for you. I serve as good a man as you.
No better?
Say better.
Well,
here comes one of my master's kinsmen.
yes. Better, sir.
You lie.
Draw if you be men. Gregory, remember that swat.
Seeing as how they were just moments ago saying how much they hate Montagues and would love to fight them, these two are sure acting awfully polite. No, sir, I do not bite my thumb at you, sir, but I do bite my thumb, sir. So why does Samson and Gregory, why do they agree to fight all of a sudden? Well, they just saw one of their kinsmen off stage. Tybalt is about to enter, and Tybalt is on their side. So they think, hey, we have the numbers on our side. Now we can fight. This is another sign that these two are cowards. Now here comes a long and well-choreographed fight scene. Shakespeare would start his plays often with fights or supernatural elements because it would get the audience's attention. In this case, it's action-packed, it's exciting. And also, it showcases how much these two families hate each other.
What? Art thou drawn among these heartless hinds? Turn, Benvolio. Look upon thy death.
I do but keep the peace. Put up thy sword, or manage it to part these men with me.
What? Drawn and talk of peace? I hate the word. As I hate hell, all Montagues, and thee.
Okay, here we have two more major characters. This is Tybalt, a Capulet in the yellow, fighting Benvolio, a Montague, in the green. Tybalt is a very strong fighter, and Benvolio is the peacekeeper. He's trying to keep the peace between the families. Now, as the craziness escalates and the violence escalates and all hell breaks loose on stage, we have Capulet, Lady Capulet, Montague, and Lady Montague, the heads of the households, enter and begin fighting as well. And it only gets broken up here because of the prince.
What ho, you men, you beasts, that quench the fire of your pernicious rage with purple fountains issuing from your veins. On pain of torture from those bloody hands, throw your mistempered weapons to the ground, and hear the sentence of your moved prince. 3 civil brawls, bred of an airy word by thee, old Capulet, and Montague, have thrice disturbed the quiet of our streets, and made Verona's ancient citizens cast by their grave beseeming ornaments. If ever you disturb our streets again, your lives shall pay the forfeit of the peace. For this time all the rest depart away. You, Capulet, shall go along with me. And Montague, come you this afternoon to know our further pleasure in this case. Once more, on pain of death, all men depart.
Now the Prince of Verona, with the help of some civilians, breaks up the fighting and says he's had enough of this. The fighting has continued in the streets for several days. This feud has been ongoing. People have been hurt in the process. It's enough. And so he makes the following decree. If ever your fighting disturbs our streets again, you will be put to death. Doesn't matter who's involved. If a Montague and a Capulet fights in our streets, death will come to them.
Who set this ancient quarrel new abroach? Speak, nephew, were you by when it began?
Here were the servants of your adversary and yours close fighting ere I did approach. I drew to part them. In the instant came the fiery Tybalt with his sword prepared.
Oh, where's Romeo? Saw you him today? Right glad I am he was not at this fray.
Madam.
An hour before the worshipped sun peered forth the golden window of the east, a troubled mind draped me to walk abroad, where underneath the grove of sycamore that westward rooteth from the city's side, so early walking did I see your son. Towards him I made, but he was ware of me and stole into the covert of the wood.
Many a morning hath he thus been seen, with tears augmenting the fresh morning's dew, adding to clouds more clouds with his deep sighs. Black and portentous must this humor prove, unless good counsel may the cause remove.
My noble uncle, do you know the cause?
I neither know it, nor can learn of him.
Have you importuned him by any means?
Both by myself and many other friends. But he, his own affection's counselor, is to himself, I will not say how true, but to himself so secret and so close.
Could we but learn from whence his sorrows grow, we would as willingly give cure as know.
See where he comes. So please you, step aside. I'll know his grievance, or else be much denied.
I would thou wert so happy by thy stay to hear true shrift. Come, madam, let's away.
This moment gives us a clue about the relationship Romeo has with his parents. After the fighting happens, they ask, what happened here? And follow it instantly up with, where's Romeo? Do you know Benvolio? You're his good friend. When Benvolio says he's not sure, they then go on to ask, Romeo has been sad recently. Do you know why? Can you find out for us? So rather than ask their own son, they turn to Benvolio, and Benvolio agrees to try and find out on their behalf. This indicates that perhaps Romeo doesn't have the best relationship with his own parents.
Good morrow, cousin.
Was the day so young?
Huh, but new struck 9.
Me sad hours seem long.
We are first introduced to Romeo as a whiny, mopey kid. He's not the hero or the romantic figure which we know today, but here he's complaining, he's sad, and he's honestly pretty annoying. Benvolio asks why he feels this way, and Romeo says, well, I'm in love, and yet not in love because the woman I love, well, she doesn't love me back, and he does it in really quite an annoying way.
Was that my father that went hence so fast?
It was. What sadness lengthens Romeo's hours?
Not having that which having makes them short.
In love.
Out.
Of love?
Out of her favor, where I am in love.
Alas, that love, so gentle in his view, should be so tyrannous and rough in proof.
Alas, that love whose view is muffled still, should without eyes see pathways to his will. Where shall we dine? Oh, me, what fray was here? Yet tell me not, for I have heard it all. It is much to do with hate, but more with love. Why, then? Oh, brawling love. Oh, loving hate. Oh, anything of nothing first create. Oh, heavy lightness. Serious vanity. Misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms. Feather of lead. Bright smoke. Cold fire. Sick health, still waking sleep. That is not what it is. This love feel I, that feel no love in this. Dost thou not love?
No cause, I rather weep.
Good heart at what?
At thy good heart's oppression.
Why? Such is love's transgression. Love is a smoke raised with the fume of sighs being purged. A fire sparkling in lover's eyes and being vexed. A sea nourished with lover's tears. What is it else? A madness most discreet. A choking gall and a preserving sweet.
See what I mean? Here, Romeo talks about love and paradoxes and oxymorons. He says it's madness, it's pain, it's torture. He's coming across as emo or overly emotional, and he's just not a likable character right now. We want him to snap out of it, to be the brave, heroic figure that Shakespeare is known for creating. But that's going to come soon.
Farewell, my coz.
Soft. I will go along, and if you leave me so, you do me wrong.
I have lost myself. This is not Romeo. He is not here. He's some other where.
Tell me, in sadness, who is that you love?
What should I groan and tell thee?
Groan? Why, no, but sadly. Tell me who.
Oh, you bid a sick man in sadness make his will? A word ill-urged to one that is so ill. In sadness, cousin, I do love a woman.
I aimed so near when I supposed you loved.
I right fair markman, and she's fair I love.
A right fair mark, fair cause is soonest hit.
Well, in that hit, you'll miss. She'll not be hit with Cupid's arrow. She hath Diane's wit, and in strong proof of chastity, well armed from love's weak childish bow, she lives unharmed. She will not stay the siege of loving terms, nor bide the encounter of assailing eyes, nor overlap to saint seducing gold. Oh, she is rich in beauty, only poor, that when she dies, with beauty dies her store.
Then she hath sworn that she will still live chaste.
She hath.
When Benvolio asks Romeo who it is that he's in love with, he simply says, a woman. But this woman won't be hit by Cupid's arrow, nor will she be punctured by any male weapon. She's taken a vow of chastity, and so Romeo's attempts to woo her have thus far been unsuccessful.
And in that sparing makes huge waste.
Be ruled by me, forget to think of her.
Oh, teach me how I should forget to think.
By giving liberty unto thine eyes. Examine other beauties.
'Tis the way to call hers exquisite. And question more. Show me a mistress that is passing fair. What doth a beauty serve but as a note where I may read who passed that passing fair? Farewell. Thou canst not teach me to forget.
I'll pay that doctrine, or else die in debt.
Benvolio's advice to Romeo is that the best way to get over this woman is to meet someone else, basically saying there are plenty of fish in the sea. Romeo's response is almost comical when you know the outcome. He says, Benvolio, no, there are no women who could ever be as beautiful as this one. She's perfect. She's the most amazing woman in the world. I'll never meet anyone better than her.
But Montague is bound as well as I in penalty alike, and 'tis not hard, I think, for men so old as we to keep the peace.
Of honorable reckoning are you both, and pity 'tis you've lived at odds so long. But now, my lord, what say you to my suit?
But saying all what I have said before, my child is yet a stranger in the world. She has not seen the change of 14 years. Let 2 more summers wither in their pride, ere we may think her ripe to be a bride.
Younger than she, a happy mother's maid.
Now we begin Act 1, Scene 2, with Capulet, the head of the Capulet household, having a conversation with Paris, who we'll get to in a second. He agrees it's easy for old people to keep the peace, but young people, that's where the challenge is. Speaking of young people, he says his daughter, Juliet, is too young to get married to Paris, which is why Paris is here. He's asking for Capulet's daughter's hand in marriage. And Paris, who we can presume is an older man, goes on to say, true, she is young. She's not yet 14 years old. However, and I'm quoting here, younger than she are happy mother's maid.
And too soon marred are those so early made. The earth has swallowed all my hopes but she. She is the hopeful lady of my earth. But woo her, gentle Paris, get her heart. My will to her consent is but a part, and she agree, within her scope of choice lies my consent and fair according voice. This night I hold an old accustomed feast, whereto I have invited many a guest, such as I love. And you among the store, one more, most welcome, makes my number more. Hear all see, and like her most, whose merits most shall be, which, on more view of many, mine being one, may stand in number, though in reckoning none. Come, go with me. Sarah, trudge through fair Verona. Find those persons out whose names are written there, and to them say, my house and welcome on their pleasure stay.
While Capulet won't just give Paris his daughter's hand in marriage, what he does say is that he's holding an old accustomed feast tonight. This might have been a Christmas dinner or an annual feast. And he offers for Paris to come and join them. If Juliet meets Paris and likes him and they hit it off, well, he's not going to stand in their way. He will agree that they should be married. But he wants Juliet to have some say in this matter. It's very forward thinking for a man in this time period.
Find them out whose names are here written. It is written the shoemaker should meddle with his yard and the tailor with his last, the fisher with his pencil and the painter with his nets. But I am sent to find those persons whose names are here writ, and can never find the names the writing person hath here writ. Ah, I must to the learned in good time.
Why, Romeo, art thou mad?
Not mad. Bound more than a madman is. Shut up in prison. Kept without my food. Whipped and tormented. Good end, good fellow.
I pray, sir, can you read?
Aye. Mine own fortune in my misery.
Perhaps you have learned that without book. But I pray, can you read anything you see?
Aye. If I know the letters and the language.
You say honestly. Rest you merry.
Stay, fellow. I can read.
The servant who Capulet had asked to invite everyone on the guest list to the party unfortunately cannot read. While this would have been very common in the time period, most people could not read. The coincidence here is that the servant has to find some way to get those people invited. His job is on the line. So he comes up with the plan, I'll just find the first person who can read and ask them whose names are on this list. Coincidentally, the first people that the servant bumps into happen to be Romeo and Benvolio. When Romeo and Benvolio see these names on the list, they become interested and want to attend the party themselves. This brings Romeo one step closer to Juliet.
Signor Martino and his wife and daughters. Count Anselmo and his beauteous sisters. The lady widow of Vitruvio. Signor Placentio and his lovely nieces. Mercutio and his brother Valentine. Mine uncle Capulet, his wife and daughters, my fair niece Rosaline. And Livia. Signor Valentio and his cousin Tybalt. Lucio and the lively Helena. The fair assembly, whither should they come?
Up.
Whither?
To supper, to our house.
Whose house?
My master's.
Indeed, I should have asked you that before.
Now I will tell you without asking. My master is the great rich Capulet, and if you be not of the house of Montagues, I pray come and crush a cup of wine. Rest you merry.
At this same ancient feast of Capulet sups the fair Rosaline, whom thou so lovest, with all the admired beauties of Verona. Go thither, and with unattainted eye compare her face with some that I shall show, and I will make thee think thy swan a crow.
Benvolio has figured out that it's Rosaline that Romeo has been in love with this whole time, and he sees her name on the list. She's been invited to this party. Benvolio then goes on to say, go to the party, Romeo. And while you're there, look at all the other beautiful women. You'll see Rosaline may be beautiful, but perhaps there's someone out there who you will find even more perfect than she.
When the devout religion of mine eyes maintains such falsehood, turn tears to fires, and these, who often drowned, could never die. Transparent heretics be burnt for liars, one fairer than my love. The all-seeing sun ne'er saw her match since first the world begun.
Tut! You saw her fair, none else being by. Herself poised with herself in either eye. But in that crystal scales, let there be weighed your lady's love against some other maid, that I will show you shining at this feast. And she shall scant show well that now shows best.
I'll go alone. No such sight to be shown, but to rejoice in splendor of mine own.
Nurse, where's my daughter? Call her forth to me.
Now, by my maidenhead at 12-year-old, I bade her come. What lamb? What ladybird? God forbid, where's this girl? What Juliet?
How now? Who calls?
Your mother.
Madam, I am here. What is your will?
At the beginning of Act 1, Scene 3, we're introduced to Lady Capulet and the nurse. Now, when we hear the nurse, it's important to understand she would not be like a medical nurse. She would have been a wet nurse. Essentially, her job was to raise Juliet from being a baby to a child to a woman. This would have been her responsibility more so than Juliet's biological mother, and as such, she's developed a very, very close relationship with Juliet. She's also a very saucy character, as we're going to find out. Her first lines, she says, I bade her come, now by my maidenhead at 12-year-old. That information was not necessary at all, but she has no problem sharing that.
This is the matter. Nurse, give leave a while. We must talk in secret. Oh. Nurse, come back again. I have remembered me. Now hear our counsel.
Lady Capulet, Juliet's real mother, wants to speak to Juliet about the idea of being married. She knows that Paris is coming to the feast tonight, and she wants to see whether Juliet would be ready for such an idea. And she tells the nurse, "Nurse, can you just leave us alone? We need to talk." But then instantly regrets that and calls the nurse back. The reason for this is Lady Capulet would have been very young, closer in age to Juliet than her own husband. This was the practice at the time. So she's probably not terribly comfortable being a mother figure, especially since Juliet would have been raised more so by the nurse. So she says, "Nurse, come back. You should be here. You help us with this."
Thou knowest my daughter's of a pretty age.
Faith, I can tell her age unto an hour.
She's not 14.
I'll lay 14 of my teeth, and yet to my teen be it spoken, I have but 4. She's not 14. How long is it now to Lammas tide?
Oh, a fortnight in odd days.
Even are odd. Of all days in the year, come Lammas Eve, at night shall she be 14. Susan and she...
I had mentioned earlier that the nurse was kind of a saucy, wild card sort of a character, and this is evidence of that, this long monologue speech. Juliet's mother, Lady Capulet, asks the nurse, "How old is my daughter? She's not 14 yet, is she?" And the nurse says, "No, not yet." But rather than just leave it at that, she goes on this long, drawn-out speech that goes into all kinds of different directions. She starts talking about how she put wormwood on her nipple to cause Juliet to stop breastfeeding. She tells a little story, an anecdote about how Juliet once as a child fell down on her face, and her husband thought it was hilarious because when she gets older and gets married, she's going to fall on her back, which is a very sexual innuendo. None of this was necessary. Juliet's mother just asked, "Juliet's not 14 yet, is she?" And the nurse goes on and on and on. This is a characteristic that is often associated with the nurse. She has these long ranting speeches which are at oftentimes nonsensical.
For even the day before, she broke her brow. And then my husband, God rest his soul, he was a merry man, took up the child. Yea, quoth he, dost thou fall upon thy face? Thou wilt fall backward when thou hast more wit. Wilt thou not, Jew? And by my holidam, the pretty wretch left crying and said, "Aye, to see now how a jest shall come about. I warrant, and I should live 1,000 years, I never should forget it." "Wilt thou not, Jew?" quoth he. Ah, the pretty wretch stinted and said, "Aye."
Enough of this, I prithee, hold thy peace.
Yes, madam. Yet I cannot choose but laugh, to think it should leave crying and say, "Aye." And yet I warrant it had upon its brow a bump as big as a young cockerel's stone, a perilous knock, and it cried bitterly. "Yea," quoth my husband, "fallest upon thy face? Thou wilt fall backward when thou comest to age. Wilt thou not, Jew?" It stinted and said, "Aye."
And stint thou too, I pray thee, nurse, say aye.
Peace I have done. God mark thee to his grace. Thou wast the prettiest babe that e'er I did nurse. And I might live to see thee married once. I have my wish.
Marry is the very theme I came to talk of. Tell me, daughter Juliet, how stands your disposition to be married?
It is an honor that I dream not of.
An honor? Were not I thine only nurse, I would say thou hast sucked wisdom from thy teat.
Well, think of marriage now. Younger than you, here in Verona, ladies of esteem are made already mothers. By my count, I was your mother much upon these years that you are now a maid. Thus then, in brief, the valiant Paris seeks you for his love.
A man, young lady. Lady, such a man as all the world. Why, he's a man of wax.
Verona's summer hath not such a flower.
Nay, he is a flower. In faith, a very flower.
So Juliet's mother says that it's time for Juliet to start considering marriage. When she was Juliet's age, she was pregnant with Juliet, which gives us a clue. If Juliet is 13 going on 14 very soon, then Lady Capulet is probably about 26, 27, maybe 28 years old. So she's relatively pretty young compared to Juliet's father anyways. Juliet is going to go on to say, I haven't really thought of marriage. I haven't put much thought into it. But the nurse and Lady Capulet both agree Paris is a flower, a man of wax, a very good-looking and well-respected man. He would make a perfect match for Juliet. They are pushing her towards this marriage. They believe this is a good idea for her.
What say you? Can you love the gentleman? This night shall you behold him at our feast. Read o'er the volume of young Paris' face and find delight writ there with beauty's pen. Examine every several lineament and see how one another lends content. And what obscured in this fair volume lies, find written in the margin of his eyes. This precious book of love, this unbound lover, to beautify him only lacks a cover. That book in many's eyes doth share the glory that in gold clasps locks in the golden story. And so shall you share all he doth possess by having him, making yourself no less.
No less? Nay, bigger. Women grow by men.
Speak briefly. Can you like of Paris love?
I'll look to like, if looking liking move. But no more deep will I endart mine eye than your consent gives strength to make it fly.
After the strong encouragement from her mother and yet another sex joke by the nurse, Juliet agrees to meet with Paris tonight at the feast, and if she likes him, she agrees she'll consider getting married, but she won't commit to anything just yet.
Madam, guests are come, supper served up, you called. My young lady asked for, the nurse cursed in the pantry, and everything in extremity. I must hence to wait. I beseech you, follow straight.
We follow thee, Juliet. The count he stays.
Go, girl. Seek happy nights to happy days.
What? Shall this speech be spoke for our excuse? Or shall we on without apology?
The date is out of such prolixity. We'll have no Cupid hoodwinked with a scarf. Nor no without book prologue faintly spoke after the prompter for our entrance. But let them measure us by what they will. We'll measure them a measure. And be gone.
Act 1, Scene 4 begins with Romeo disagreeing with his friends. They're convincing him to go to this party, and they're doing so in masks. They're going as a masqueraded troupe, so they're going to wear masks, and that's how they plan to get into the Capulet household. Romeo wants no part of it. He says, I'm not in the mood. I'm feeling sad and low. I don't want to dance. Again, this is the side of Romeo I really can't get behind. I don't care for this part of the character. But his friends Benvolio and Mercutio, who we're soon to meet, push him forward. They say, we need you to dance. You need to go out and have fun. Here, something great is going to happen to you. But Romeo continues to reject that idea.
Give me a torch. I'm not for this ambling. Being but heavy, I will bear the light.
Nay, gentle Romeo, we must have you dance.
Not I, believe me. You have dancing shoes with nimble soles. I have a soul of lead. So stakes me to the ground, I cannot move.
Oof. You are a lover. Borrow Cupid's wings and soar with them above a common bound.
I am too sore. In Pissid with his shaft. to soar with his light feathers, and so bound, I cannot bound a pitch above dull woe. Under love's heavy burden do I sing.
And to sink in it should you burden love, too great oppression for a tender thing.
Is love a tender thing? It's too rough, too rude, too boisterous. And it pricks like thorn.
If love be rough with you, be rough with love. Prick love for pricking, and you beat love down.
So this is Mercutio. He's actually a family member of the prince's. He's related to the prince, but he is one of Romeo's good friends. Mercutio, like the nurse, is long-winded. He gives these long speeches. And also like the nurse, he tends to be very sexual in nature. Romeo's complaining and coming across as very sad, and Mercutio is the exact opposite. He's a party animal, he's loud and boisterous. Romeo says he's sinking in this depression, and Mercutio says, well, you should sink into a woman instead. Well, that's rude. Romeo suggests that perhaps love is a tender thing, and Mercutio says, well, if love is tender, then be tender back. But if love is rough, well, then you need to be rough right back as well.
Give me a case to put my visage in. A visor for a visor. What care I? What curious eye doth quote deformities? Here are the beetle brows shall blush for me.
Come, knock and enter, and no sooner in, but every man betake him to his legs.
A torch for me. Let wantons light of heart tickle the senseless rushes with their heels. But I am proverbed with a grandsire phrase, I'll be a candle holder and look on. The game was ne'er so fair, and I am done.
Come, we burn daylight. Ho!
Nay, that's not so.
I mean, sir, in delay, we waste our lights in vain, like lamps by day. Oh, take our good meaning, for our judgment sits 5 times in that air, once in our 5 wits.
We mean well in going to this masque, but 'tis no wit to go.
Why, may one ask?
I dreamt a dream tonight.
And so did I.
But what was yours?
That dreamers often lie.
In bed, asleep, while they do dream things true.
Oh, then I see Queen Mab hath been with you. She is the fairy's midwife, and she comes in shape no bigger than an agate stone on the forefinger of an alderman, drawn with a team of little atomies athwart men's noses as they lie asleep. Her wagon spokes made of long spinner's leg, her cover of the wings of grasshoppers, her traces of the smallest spider's web, her colors of the moonshine's watery beams, her whip of cricket's bone, the lash of film. Her wagoner is a small gray-coated gnat, not half so big as a round little worm pricked from the lazy finger of a maid. Her chariot is an empty hazelnut, made by the joiner squirrel or old grub, time out of mind the fairy's coachmakers. And in this state, she gallops night by night through lovers' brains. And then they dream of love. Or courtiers' knees that dream on curtsy straight. Or lawyers' fingers who straight dream on fees. Or ladies' lips who straight on kisses dream. Which oft the angry Mab with blisters plagues, because their breaths with sweetmeats tainted are. Sometimes she gallops o'er a courtier's nose, and then dreams he of smelling out a suit. And sometimes comes she with a tithe pig's tail, tickling a parson's nose, and he lies asleep. And then dreams he of another benefice. Sometimes she driveth o'er a soldier's neck, and then dreams he of cutting foreign throats, of breaches, ambuscados, Spanish blades, of healths 5 fathom deep. And then, anon, drums in his ear, at which he starts and wakes, and being thus frighted, swears a prayer or two, and sleeps again. This is that very Mab that plats the manes of horses in the night and bakes the elf locks in foul, sluttish hairs, which once untangled, much misfortune bodes. This is the hag, when maids lie on their backs, that presses them and learns them first to bear, making them women of good carriage. This is she.
Peace, Mercutio.
Mercutio's Queen Mab speech is one of Shakespeare's more famous monologues. In this speech, Mercutio is speaking about Queen Mab, a fairy, a mythical character, who brings dreams to everyone in their sleep. Queen Mab would bring them whatever they want to dream of. Young men and women are given dreams of love. A soldier would be given dreams of glory on the battlefield. But as the speech goes on, and as Queen Mab comes to you more and more, the dreams become darker and the visions become dark. The lovers are taught how to have sex and grow old and die. The soldier is taught about how to slit throats and commit atrocities on the battlefield. And Mercutio gets swept up in this vision that he's having. It's only when Romeo steps in and stops him that Mercutio stops and says, I was speaking of nothing. I was being silly. But perhaps there's a message there in that speech that relates to this play. All these characters have good intentions. Romeo and Juliet are in love. Friar Lawrence, who we're going to meet later, he has good intentions as well. But as a result of all their good-natured dreams and hopes, darkness and tragedy occurs.
Thou talkst of nothing.
True. I talk of dreams, which are the children of an idle brain, begot of nothing but vain fantasy, which are as thin of substance as the air, and more inconstant than the wind.
This wind you talk of blows us from ourselves. Supper is done, we shall come too late.
I fear too early. For my mind misgives some consequence. Yet hanging in the stars shall bitterly begin his fearful date with this night's revels, and expire the term of a despised life closed in my breast by some vile forfeit of untimely death. But he that hath the steerage of my course direct my sail.
No.
Oh, lusty gentlemen!
Strike drum!
Romeo responds to Mercutio with his own visions. He has a feeling that the events of tonight are going to lead to his own untimely death. Wow, that's pretty dark. You'd think he would stay away from this party. But no, he says, on, lusty gentlemen, here we go, let's go. And the reason he says that is that he doesn't feel he's in control over his own destiny. He that hath the steerage of my course direct my sail. Whoever is in charge, whoever is leading me here, let them lead me on, because I do not have control over my own fate. This is one of the themes of this play, Romeo and Juliet. Are these characters destined? Are they fated to this tragic outcome? Or is the tragedy really the result of their own actions and their own mistakes? Both are acceptable interpretations.
Welcome, gentlemen. Ladies that have their toes unplagued with corns will walk about with you. My mistresses, which of you now shall deny to dance? She that makes dainty, she, I'll swear, hath corns. Am I come near ye now? Gentlemen, welcome. I have seen the day that I have worn a visor and could tell a whispering tale in a fair lady's ear, such as would please. 'Tis gone, 'tis gone, 'tis gone. You are welcome, gentlemen. Come, musicians, play!
Romeo and his friends have been welcomed into the Capulet party in Act 1, Scene 5. That's likely because Capulet, he appears to be drunk. He's having a great time. He's trying to dance with all the ladies. And when he sees these men in masks approach, Well, rather than question them or turn them away, his first reaction is, gentlemen, I know what you're here for. It's okay. I remember when I was a young teenager, too, trying to meet ladies. I'd wear masks. I'd have fun. I'd get into trouble, too. Welcome. Come and have fun with us.
Aho! Make room! And foot it, girls!
Now, this would also have been a long, choreographed dance, not unlike the fight in Act 1, Scene 1, because Shakespeare's audience would have liked to see this. They would have appreciated an upper-class waltz or dance of some sort. It would have been visually impressive. So Shakespeare indeed would have included a long dance sequence.
Lady's that which doth enrich the hand of yonder knight?
I know not, sir.
Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright. It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear. Beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear. So shows a snowy dove trooping with crows as yonder lady o'er her fellows shows. The measure done, I'll watch her place of stand, and touching her's mate, blessed my rude hand. Did my heart love till now forswear its sight, for I ne'er saw true beauty till this night?
Did my heart love till now forswear its sight, for I ne'er saw true beauty till this night? This guy was head over heels in love with Rosaline like an hour ago. He swore he would never meet anyone as perfect as she, and now within seconds has instantly forgotten about her because he has laid eyes on Juliet. Wow.
This, by his voice, should be a Montague. Go fetch me my rapier. What? Dares the slave come hither covered with an antic face to fleer and scorn at our solemnity? Now, by the stock and honor of my kin, to strike him dead I hold it not a sin.
How now, kinsman, wherefore storm you so?
Uncle, this is a Montague, a foe, a villain that is hither come in spite to scorn at our solemnity this night.
Young Romeo, is it?
'Tis he, that villain Romeo.
Content thee, gentle coz, let him alone. He bears him like a portly gentleman. And to say truth, rumor brags of him to be a virtuous and well-governed youth. I would not, for the wealth of all this town, here in my house do him disparagement. Therefore be patient, take no note of him. It is my will, the which if thou respect, show a fair presence, and put off these frowns, and there will be seeming semblance for a feast.
It fits when such a villain is a guest. I'll not endure him.
But he shall be endured. What, goodman boy, I say he shall.
In this passage, Tybalt overhears Romeo speaking about Juliet and instantly recognizes that voice. That's the voice of a Montague. He asks for his rapier, his sword, and says, I'm going to go fight and kill this man who entered into our household. But luckily, fortunately, very coincidentally, Capulet just happened to be walking by and interrupted. Had he not been there, Tybalt would have either kicked Romeo out or tried to fight and perhaps even killed him. But Capulet intervenes and says, No. I don't want any fights at this party. Everyone's having a good time. Plus, Romeo is known to be respected. He's honorable. So, no, we'll leave him alone. And he forces Tybalt to hold his sword. Tybalt, as a result, is enraged by this, and that's going to come back later on in the play.
Am I the master here, or you go too? You'll not endure him. God shall mend my soul. You'll make a mutiny among my guests. You'll set a cock-a-hoop. You'll be the man.
Uncle, 'tis a shame.
Go to, you are a saucy boy. Ah! Oh, is it so indeed? This trick may chance to scathe you. I know what. You must contrary me. Marry, 'tis time. Well said, my hearts.
Go to, you are a princox. Be quiet for shame, or I will make you quiet.
What? Surely, my hearts.
Patience, perforce, with willful color meeting makes my flesh tremble in that different greeting. I will withdraw. But this intrusion shall, now seeming sweet, convert to bitterest gall.
If I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, the gentle sin is this: my lips to blushing pilgrims ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss.
While Tybalt and Capulet were distracted with each other, Romeo's made his move and pulled Juliet into a dark corner, and like a total creep, tells her, "Hey, I want to kiss you." No, really, that's his actual pickup line. He instantly tells her he wants to kiss her. And there's no subtlety here. Romeo is going for it.
Good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this. For saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch, and palm to palm is holy palmer's kiss.
Have not saints lips and holy palmers too?
Aye, pilgrim, lips that they must use in prayer.
You've got to give credit to Juliet, because she calls Romeo out on his cheesy pickup line. And she even says, "Oh, you know what you should be doing with your lips? Using them to pray." She's playing hard to get. At the same time, we can't deny it, she finds him very attractive. And she's come into this party with the idea that she's going to look upon men for the first time to see if they're marriage material. Coincidentally, that has led her to thinking of Romeo as a potential mate.
Well then, let lips do what hands do. They pray. Grant thou lest faith turn to despair.
Saints do not move, though grant for prayer's sake.
Then move not, while my prayer's effect I take. Thus from my lips by thine, my sin is purged.
Then have my lips the sin that they have took.
Sin? From my lips? Oh, trespass sweetly urged, give me my sin again.
You kiss by the book.
Madam, your mother craves a word with you.
Nurse, what is her mother?
Marry, bachelor, her mother is the lady of the house, and a good lady, and a wise and virtuous. I nursed her daughter that you talked with all. I tell you, he that can lay hold of her shall have the chinks.
After Juliet agrees that Romeo is a very good kisser, she's pulled away by the nurse because her mother is searching for her. Romeo asks the nurse, "Lady, who is that woman's family? Who is her mother?" To which the nurse informs him, her mother is Lady Capulet. This is devastating to Romeo. The nurse goes on to say, "He that shall lay hold of her shall have all the chinks." The chinks meaning the sound of money. He will inherit all of her money, become very wealthy. It's not as offensive as it originally seems.
Is she a Capulet?
Oh, dear Count, my life is my foe's debt.
Away, be gone. The sport is at the best.
Aye, so I fear. The more is my unrest.
Nay, gentlemen, for prayer not to be gone, we have a trifling foolish banquet towards. Is it e'en so? Why, I thank you all. I thank you, honest gentlemen. Good night. Sarah, by my faith, it waxes late. I'll to my rest.
hither, nurse. What is yon gentleman?
The son and heir of old Tiberia.
What's he that now is going out the door?
Marry, that I think be young Petruchio.
What's he that follows there that would not dance?
I know not.
Go, ask his name. If he be married, my grave is like to be my wedding bed.
Juliet cleverly asks the nurse, what are the names of those three men over there? She really only wanted to learn about Romeo's, but she didn't want to give it away that she had fallen for this man. When the nurse goes to find out Romeo's actual name and who he is, Juliet tells us, if he be married, my grave is like to be my wedding bed. This is an aside, a thought that she's having aloud. The purpose of that is that we, the audience, get to hear what's going on in her mind. And this is a very powerful thought. If this man is already married, I will never marry. My grave shall be my wedding bed. This tells us Juliet wants to marry this man and this man alone. This is a very, very strong emotion.
His name is Romeo and a Montague, the only son of your great enemy.
My only love sprung from my only hate. Too early seen unknown and known too late. Prodigious birth of love it is to me that I must love a loathed enemy.
What's this? What's this?
A rhyme I learnt even now of one I danced withal.
When Juliet finds out that Romeo, the man she had been making out with in the corner, was a Montague, she says, my only love sprung from my only hate. She says this out loud, and the nurse hears her say this. So Juliet tells her, nothing. It was a rhyme, a poem I just heard tonight. That's a really, really bad lie. The nurse understands Juliet is hiding something, and she has an idea that Juliet is falling for Romeo. But fortunately, Juliet is called away at the very last moment, and that brings us to the end of Act 1.
Anan! Anan! Come, let's away. The strangers all are gone.